Welcome to the Writing Black Joy podcast, where we celebrate the joyful narratives of the Black creatives writing their names on the pages of history and on our hearts. I am your host, Sophia Robinson. Here, you'll find conversations with amazing Black creatives, learn more about their projects and the joy that they're bringing into the world, find inspiration for your own creative ventures, and dive deep into the topics that shape our narratives. The guests on this podcast are all sorts of creatives, from writers of fiction and nonfiction to playwrights and actors, visual artists, podcasters, and so much more who are bringing joy to their narratives. So, if you are a writer, a creative, or a lover of the arts, or you simply want to hear some good conversations, keep on listening and welcome to the show. Welcome back to Writing Black Joy. Thank you so much for being here and for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, or if this is your first time listening, hit subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and share it with a friend, especially those friends of yours whose love language is receiving podcast recommendations. This week's guest is the wonderful Corinne Walker, a Bristol-based writer, director, and performer. And here is a little bit more about her. Corinne is passionate about telling diverse local stories with a political edge which shine a light on the Southwest and champion regional underrepresented talent. She's also written for audio, animation, and stage. Corinne recently completed the Channel 4 New Writers Scheme, where she wrote her first full-length drama pilot. Her BFI Network-funded film Homegrown has screened at BAFTA and BFI-qualifying festivals, including Encounters and Norwich, and internationally at festivals in Canada and the US. She's an alumni of We Are Parables Momentum Scheme and the BFI Network SW's New Voices Scheme, and she was commissioned by BBC New Creatives for her first short film, a comedy short which she wrote and directed. Her Arts Council-funded play The Fight Well project, which is how I came to find her, premiered in September 2024 and toured London, Bristol and Plymouth, and is now in further development. I loved our conversation so much as Corinne and I talked about her journey as an actor, eventually leading to her writing for film and theatre, her desire to bring a sense of play to more serious topics, and how this led to the video game format for the Fight Well project, and the process of translating that video game format into a show, bringing theatre and well-being into community and discussions around Black women's health, bringing together creativity and learning in healthcare, how she handled and balanced the roles of being writer, producer, and the main actor in the performance, the highs and lows of bringing a show together, the extra layer of joy the audience can bring to a live performance, and so much more. Now, you may have noticed this season and the last that towards the end of every episode, I have a lightning round, and it's been so much fun and such a hit that I am bringing that to you, my listeners. Go over to www.writingblackjoy.com and leave me a voice note, and you may be featured later on in the season. I can't wait to hear what is bringing you joy right now. All right, let's head over to the conversation with Corinne, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. Welcome back to Writing Black Joy, and I'm so happy to have with me today Corinne Walker. We met virtually a couple of times, and so I'm looking forward to this conversation. Welcome, Corinne.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, diving into writing and joy and all the things that I like. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So I know you are a writer and performer. Tell us a bit about your history. How did you come into these fields as a writer and performer?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor. That was my thing. From like school days, I was like, drama was always my favorite subject. And I loved it. And I was always like, when I found out you could do this as a job, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I very much pursued that. And I went to drama school, and then I graduated 10 years ago this year. And
Congrats.
And then I started initially just acting and being in other people's things and coming up against what are the limitations of that, what are the roles that people would see me in, and kind of like what the things that sort of I was getting cast as. I was doing getting cast a lot as like children, children and teenagers.
But well, young.
Yeah, which it's fine, but and then basically the pandemic hit, and there was no more acting work happening, and I guess I was just really looking for an outlet for my creativity in a different way, and so I started exploring writing a bit more, which is always something that's interested me. But I definitely I might have put pen to paper, but I definitely was never in a place where I wanted to share my writing, never want anyone to read it. And then I feel like 2020 was one of those years where it's kind of like it pushed me to do a lot of things and to share my writing and put it out there in a number of ways. The first thing that I properly, I guess, wrote that was completed was a short film, which again, it was because there was nothing else happening, and I saw an opportunity. It was BBC New Creatives, it was called. It's not around anymore, but it was an opportunity for people who didn't have any experience to make a short film, and they would get a little bit of funding and support to kind of write it and direct it. And so I applied for that, and then I got commissioned to do that. So that was my first commission, and that was my first thing that I kind of wrote, was that short film for that program, basically.
Nice. What was it about?
It was called Clifford. It was, I wanted to explore the housing crisis, but this is probably a topic that's going to come up a lot in this conversation. I wanted to talk about quite a serious topic, but I wanted to use a format that felt quite playful and funny. We're obviously in the deepest, darkest heart of a pandemic, so I really find some lightness in there. So it explored the housing crisis and its effects on older and younger people, but it was set in the style of a 90s sitcom, complete with a theme tune, complete with a laugh track. It was imagining a Jamaican man in his 70s who doesn't want to move out of he's set in Bristol, but he doesn't want to move out of the area that he's sort of been in his whole time that he's been in the UK, an area where there was a big Afro-Caribbean population, but is being pushed out because of gentrification. So he moves into a house share with a group of people in their 20s, and it kind of looks at like the intergenerational, intercultural differences and similarities, and finds humor in that.
That does sound like fun. And the thing I like about it, and we talked about this prior to this conversation, is that I don't think there's ever a binary. I don't think life is hard things can be going on in life. You can be in the middle of a pandemic, but also there's good days and there's bad days, and I feel like you want something that can kind of hold both of those things, right? Hold, okay, there's this crisis going on, there is gentrification, it's a real thing. And also, the people who are going through it are real people. They have good days, they have bad days, they have jokes, they make friends, they make connections, they have relationships. And how do you kind of balance those things? And I love that idea of bringing that playful spin into otherwise serious topics, because I feel like that's a way that makes us be able to look at them instead of looking away.
Yeah.
Which I think is so easy to do, especially when things are hard. And I like that idea. I like the idea of a sitcom, and I love sitcoms. So
honestly, it was really fun. That project was really fun. Just a theme tune and everything. So
that's great. And so I met you through the Fight Well Project, which is your sort of production theater. And one of the quotes I took from your website is that this was a project that you did to kind of explore what it would take for Black women to believe when it comes to our own bodies. But you also kind of made it into a video game. So tell me a bit about the inspiration for that, what made you decide to choose that topic, but also that format.
So I would definitely class the Fight Well Project as like a theatre show, but it's using kind of video game elements to bring it to life. It's a topic I've wanted to talk about for years and years, sort of Black women's experiences within the healthcare system in the UK. Again, something that it came to light a lot during 2020 and the pandemic, but it's something that, I've had a lot of personal experience as a Black woman, and like a lot of close family members had sort of like negative outcomes or experiences within the healthcare system. And it kind of was like an anecdotal thing, but it was also like a proven thing. There's lots of obviously studies, and we know the facts around poor outcomes for Black women in sort of like physical health, mental health, maternal health. So I really wanted to talk about this, but I really guess for me, I really started from the audience, and I really wanted Black women to come along and see the show and feel like they were being seen and their experiences were being validated and that they were being, like I said, believed. But I didn't want it to feel like they were being particularly traumatized or kind of, I just didn't want people to come away from it and feel something worse than when they went in, about that topic. And so it was like, how can I talk about this in a way that has a sort of playfulness to it, has a sort of and it was something that I struggled with quite a while about how to portray that. Then the video game idea came to me because when we talk about health, a lot of the time we use these words like it's a battle or using like a fight for life or these kind of very like sort of war militaristic language. And that was what made me think of like a video game initially. It was like, it could be used as sort of like an allegory for this battle and this like fight for like just to get a diagnosis. It's just such a battle and all these sort of things. But then actually I found that actually the video game element makes it accessible for people and makes people kind of connect with it in a way, but it's not, it gives it that distance that people feel like they're more able to connect with. And then also it just means you can have a lot of fun with it. People have lots of different sort of references or connections with video games. So that's kind of how it came about. But it was like a really long process. I had worked with, so I initially got a seed commission from Camden People's Theatre to kind of start to develop it. And then Alex Harris, who is the director of the show, was the director of the show. She also is a brilliant dramaturg. And I worked with her really closely in that pulling it apart and thinking about what the content's going to be and how it's going to slot together as a whole show.
That's such a great achievement, I think. Taking a topic like that and putting it into that accessible format, and I think about what you said about, you want people to be able to look at the topic and not be traumatized by it. And I think that's so important because I think people will turn a blind eye and kind of go with the status quo if something is too hard to look at, right? And so you want people to be able to look at it, to be able to access it. I love fiction for that. Sometimes I feel like fiction is such a good medium because people's walls are down and they can kind of sort of interact with a topic on a level where they can empathize and they can understand what's going on without feeling the element of judgment that may come from, I guess, if something's put across in a different format. So I think that's such a good idea. Did you play video games? I wanted to.
It's so funny because I'm not a huge gamer at all. Like the games that I used to play as well, like proper like retro games that you saw, where you go to like arcades and stuff, like those old school kind of like games.
So for me, it was all about Tetris. I'm from that generation. It's like Tetris was my video game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, to be honest, the game that I was obsessed with when I was growing up was The Sims, which, you're just like, I used to love that game because I just quite liked controlling other people's lives. So it's just quite fun. I found it quite fun. But yeah, the Fat Wall Project's got a lot of like old, like kind of 90s and 80s video game references, like a lot of those like sort of combat games and like loading screens and that, because a lot of modern games don't really have those sort of things.
No, it isn't.
So it was quite retro in that sense.
Oh, I love that. Did you have any sort of consultation from other gamers when you were writing it?
Yeah.
The gamers.
I worked with Hannah Wood, who runs her own video games based in Plymouth, but she runs her own video game sort of consultancy company. I think they produce lots of things, theatre as well, but obviously like she's worked in games. So I worked with her. She consulted on the show, providing the aspect of someone who is a gamer, and she gave me loads of references because there really is a game for like everyone and it covers every topic. So that was really useful. And also just some of the other people who worked on the project also were like very big gamers. So I learned a lot from them.
Nice.
And now I love watching like tutorials online, people playing games. I genuinely am really into it because I got into it during the research. I watched a lot of sort of game tutorials just to see how a game begins, finish, and like the progression.
How to get game. My nephew really likes to watch game tutorials, but I'm pretty sure they're not retro.
Yeah.
So, although, everyone loves Minecraft. That's retro.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's really good. How was it received? How did you find it was received when you put it on?
Well, again, that's like a real process because when I first, like I said, I had received a seed commission from Camden People's Theatre to kind of develop it. And that came with having a slot at a scratch night. So, and this was back in 2023. So I wrote initially 20 minutes and I just basically wanted to test the idea of, can I put a video game on stage and it be clear,
Translate that sort of that form, I guess, that sort of video game form, can it translate on stage?
Yes, exactly. So I was like, because I've never done anything like that before, and so I was like, this is very much going to be an experiment. So I wrote this sort of first 20 minutes, and prior to writing that, I had spoken with a lot of different Black women, and I had got a little experience anecdotally, because obviously I was like, well, I've got my experience, I've got my family members' experience, but I didn't just want to be like, I didn't want to confidently say, oh, this is, lots of people are going through this. I wanted to go out and people and hear like their experiences. So I did that before that scratch performance. And yeah, to be honest, I was really not feeling good about it. I wrote this 20 minutes and I was like, I feel like it can work, but will it work? I was very much doing a lot of it myself, like in terms of creating the whole show. I was doing a lot of it myself. Anyway, put that 20 minutes on and it was really well received. And it was clear, like people understood, yes, it's a video game. We get the metaphor. We think it's like a clever way of talking about this, but in a different way. And so I was like, brilliant, I'm going to write this full version. And I decided to apply for Arts Council funding to kind of to help support the development of the show. And we got Arts Council funding. So then we had kind of like 9 months to kind of go from that 20 minutes to like a full show. And again, I did work with the community. I set up a group for Black women to come to. And it was kind of a group that combined theatre, well-being, movement, and discussion. And it was all basically, I invited Black women and said, have you had a negative experience or have you had an experience within the healthcare system that you, I guess, want to talk about or just want to kind of like come to terms with or just want to share or hear from others? So I set up this community group. And so again, what happened in those sessions, they were brilliant sessions, really lovely group of people that would come along. And again, what they share was really instrumental in developing what became the final script and the final piece. And even some of their voices were featured in the show as well.
Brilliant.
So I felt for me, it's just really important to kind of honor those women who had like been a part of that process and shared. And a lot of them came to see the show as well. So yeah, anyway, how it was received. So then, yeah, we did it in London, Plymouth and Bristol. And yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was that everyone really connected to it. I made it quite specifically about Black women's experiences, but people of all backgrounds really could resonate with it from some level. I think we've all had that kind of thing of not being believed or not being taken seriously by sort of medical professionals, having to wait months and months for appointments. There was, I think, things in there that everyone could relate to. And actually, it surprised me the conversations that happened afterwards where people would come up to me and share their experiences. And people of all sorts of backgrounds, or people being like, oh, I had never, ever known that was your experience, or it's really opened my eyes around that. And I did a lot of research as well with sort of professionals and professional organizations, universities, consultants. Dr. Annabelle Shoamimo, she was like a really instrumental person. She's written a brilliant book called Divided, which which is all about kind of the need to decolonize healthcare, which I would recommend anyone to read.
We'll have a look at that. I'll definitely have a look, because I work in healthcare, so that's actually how I got to hear about the sort of performance. But anyhow, you go ahead, and then I've got like 10 different directions I want to go in, so let's see which one comes out.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to say that there was just so many different ways that research or like knowledge was gathered, and also that I didn't like do it all by myself. Like there were so many people that inputted on the script and the research and the process, and it was a long process if we think about from like it was like months. 18 months, something like that, of a process to get to the end result.
I love that. I've got so many things. I definitely want to talk to you about the actual experience. So a couple of things. One is that you talked about during the sort of initial process when you had the sort of 20 minutes that you had to produce, not knowing how it would work. And one of the things I find, I tell people, I was like, my theater journey ended at drama club, high school drama club. But one of the things I was always really aware of, and I sing in a choir now, is about the same thing, that you can't see it if you're in it. Like at no point could you watch, even if you watch a recording of it, at no point can you see it as an outsider because it's yours, right? So how did you feel about that? Like you said, you weren't sure if it was, how people would respond to the sort of 20 minutes of it. How were you able to get enough of an outside perspective to know, okay, this is something I want to make into a full length piece?
Well, so as I mentioned, I worked with Alex. She was a dramaturg on the full length piece, but she also inputted on the kind of 20 minutes. So I wrote it and I sent her that kind of script, and she was like, okay, yeah, this is really interesting. Like, this is really, it's very clear the direction you're going down with this. And I think for me, it was hard because it's like, that's cool. You can write something, you're like, great, but then it's a piece of theatre. It needs to be brought to life. Like, how do we bring this to life? And I honestly haven't got any. I really haven't got any life. I had no insight into how it was going to go. Honestly, like I remember waiting backstage before this 20 minutes and going, "This could be." I didn't have a director or anything for that section, so I remember it was like a heat wave. I was rehearsing in my living room. I had bought all the props myself. I had done the sound myself. I had done the visuals myself. Like everything I did basically myself. And I was like, I have no idea if this is. What is this? I don't know. I have no idea. And so it was such a leap of faith just doing it. And then I think in the end, you just have to go out there, Corinne, and you just have to really sell it. So I remember giving myself a pep talk before I went on stage, because I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but it's a scratch night, and people know that scratch nights are just, you're trying things out for the first time, and they were quite a warm, receptive audience. So I was like, I'm just going to play on that.
See what happens next.
So once that had happened, and I got a lot of feedback from the audience, it just felt so much. Then I felt like, okay, this is definitely a thing that we can do. And once I had a full team behind me, so it wasn't just me doing everything, I was like, I know that this will be fun. Like, this is going to be great.
Yeah. Then you know it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Once you've got anyone else to tell you, I wouldn't do this, or it looks better when you go over here, or this isn't very clear. It's just, it's a breeze.
Excellent.
In comparison, anyway.
That's really good. So one of the things you talked about, collecting the stories, but like gathering the women to sort of hear their stories and their experiences of, their own healthcare experiences. You talked about bringing creativity into that, bringing that sort of well-being aspect into them telling those stories. And I like that, because one of the things I've been thinking about recently is just the role that creativity can play in and amongst other things. Our dental students here during the year did a forum theatre. I can't remember if I told you about this or not, but it was so good for them to really learn about things like cultural competence and different things like that while playing, and, they can go and get up on stage and that type of thing. And it just kind of really struck me how much of a role creativity can play in telling those difficult stories. Not obviously your sort of play is a great example of that, but even in having those conversations, talking about people's experiences, and I really, to me, that really stood out to me in a lot of what you said, like just that, how you kind of bring that creative process into everything, even into having those hard conversations. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that. And obviously you've performed it a few times now. Looking back on it, what are your sort of like thoughts, reflections on how it went now that you've done it?
I think, yeah, that's a really good question, because obviously it's been a while and it's been nice to have that.
It's been a while.
Nice to have that time away from it to really reflect. Because to be honest, when we first did it, it was we had like 10 days to rehearse, and it was like a full hour and like 15-minute long show with all of these visual cues and sound cues. Like, it was a really like full on show, and I think everyone did amazingly who worked on the show. So yeah, but yeah, I think we were really happy with how it, like I said, was received. And also because, for example, we had a lot of interest from universities, and people were saying that they think it was really important that their students who are studying into health and health sciences and things like that have the opportunity to watch the show and to just have a different way to enhance their curriculum, or understand the experience of a different group of people that they will definitely be engaging with.
Yeah.
But from a way which wasn't theoretical or, like lecture based. So I feel like it was just really lovely to have for us to understand the impact that the show could have, or did already have, but could have in the future. And I think it's really great to hear what you were saying about your dental students doing the Forum Theatre, because I very much come from a theatre background. I don't have any sort of like insight into what the curriculum of students who are studying in like healthcare, like those sort of subjects, like what do they learn about, or how do they learn? And it's really lovely to hear that you have that. I know that things like medical role play exist and things like that, but I think I feel like quite often I was having conversations with people about the show, and it feels very like creativity's in one lane and medicine and everything else is in another lane. Very science-based, very like logical, theoretical, and we don't mix those. And I think it's wonderful to hear that that's like not the case. And I think from what I can hear, there's like a real appetite to continue to bring those together. And I feel like it's just like it's a really natural marriage of the two actually. So I think we were really pleased with the future potential of it, I guess, not just to tour it into theatres, but also bring it to universities, bring it to medical schools, and how it can have an impact, I guess. Yeah, because I'm really like keen to make art that really has impact and really can make changes.
Yeah. And that's what to kind of briefly touch on the Forum Theatre, I remember one of the facilitators that we had last year, one of the things she talked about was how, the whole aim of that particular creative form is about change. It's about getting, impacting people to start to change how they think and how they view things through that sort of almost like extra lens of the sort of creative arts that are there. And personally, I don't, I'm one of those weird people who like went into healthcare, but also love the creative arts, love writing, love music, love making it, all of that. And I don't think they're that separate at all. But I think for a long time, things have very much been siloed. And I was very happy when we were able to bring that Forum Theatre into our students. And for listeners who don't know what it is, it's basically a performance that the students could take part in and start to practice those skills by observing something that was kind of written to emulate a scenario that they might see or be a part of, but give them the chance to kind of engage with it in a very non-threatening and very safe environment. That's the best way I can describe it. I don't know if you'd have more to add to it, but That's what we used it for, and it really worked well.
Because it's a really active way of as well. It's not just like, because I think also that's something that we're looking at with Fight Well in the future is how can we make it more active? Because the forum theatre is very active in the sense of you approach a scenario and then you kind of reflect on that scenario, and then you have the opportunity to change it within that kind of format so that you can actually, practically put into place different approaches and different ways of, so I think it's really great tool.
Yeah. And I look forward to hearing if you're able to make the sort of Fight Well project more interactive, because I feel like that is how, this is sort of like year 3 for me in terms of working with students. And I feel like they learn so much from that interaction, so much more than just sitting and passively taking things in. Right. So I think that's a brilliant format. And I look forward to hearing how you sort of work that into your process as well. One of the things you said early on was how important it is for you to kind of bring that creativity and that play even in when you're sort of having hard conversations, talking about difficult topics. And I would love to dive into a bit more about that. It's the podcast called Writing Black Joy, so I'm all about that as well. And just, how important it is. So I'm curious, why is that so important to you? Or what do you see as the value of bringing that play, bringing that joy into those difficult topics?
Well, I think it comes from, in many ways, it comes from a very selfish place of the fact that I really I feel like I personally really engage with things more when there is a level of humor, levity, lightness to something. I think, especially if we're talking about Black people as a whole, I feel like we do this all the time. I feel like we carry humor with us in the darkest times. It's what's got us through to this point, basically. I was even over the weekend, I was spending time with family, and I was just struck by how much laughter, how much jokes are cracked, how much we could be talking about very serious stuff, but then someone says something and the whole table erupts in laughter, and that whenever we gather is always that. So even if it's like a darker time, there'll always be that humor and there'll always be that joy. And then when you come away, you actually remember, gosh, we really laughed a lot today. So I feel like for me, that's kind of who I am. That's kind of like how I've always been brought up. And even with the Fight Well project, there even is like a level in the show, which is the joy level, which is just dance and music and a chance to just really just be in that moment, because that felt really reflective of just who we are and how we as humans deal with hardship and come to terms with it. And, even like I said, that we had those sessions with people in the community. And again, there was a lot of laughter. There was joy within it. We had these tough conversations, people already being honest and sharing what their experiences were. But still, there was a desire to find fun, find joy. And so I felt like, I just feel like it reflects the world better. And I just feel like people do really want to laugh and feel something else to their emotion. I think we carry a lot of despair in our lives, especially now.
Yeah.
So I think anything I want to make, I want to add to kind of bringing that up, just a bit of play, a bit of fun. And I think it comes from me being from a theatre background where we play all the time. And
absolutely, you're playing a part, you're playing a role.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And I know that you said you really, obviously you went to drama school, you were an actor for quite a while, and then COVID came and you went into writing this thing. Tell us a bit about that. How was your writing process, given that wasn't your natural sort of creative form? Not natural. Given that it wasn't a creative form that you were used to sort of using.
For this show particularly?
Yes, but let's just say with this show, because I know you wrote a film before this, but obviously, this is a much longer sort of piece. Yeah. So how did that go?
At the time, this was probably the longest thing that I had written, and it was easier and harder in the sense of it because it was a video game, and I split it up. Instead of having scenes, we had levels, and we had sort of like the real world represented, and then we have the game world represented. So what I did was I had a list of all sorts of things that I wanted to talk about when it came to Black women's experiences within the healthcare system. So whether that's technology and AI, whether that the experience of going to the doctors, whether that's waiting for a doctor's appointment and like, what do we do to distract ourselves, whether that's the coping mechanisms that we have for ourselves just so we can get through the day when we are unwell. So yeah, I had a list of like all these different things that I wanted to talk about. And I kind of had a list of like levels, I suppose, or like things that I was wondering like, how can I match the two up? So for example, again, like I mentioned, the joy level, it was always really important to me that we were going to have a level about joy. So it was basically a case of me going, okay, I want to write a level about joy today. What would that be? Brainstorming some ideas, writing things out and seeing what would flow or work. And I set myself a goal of like, I think by this date, I want to have a first draft. And in the end, when I got to that date, I had a script, but it wasn't finished. I didn't have an ending. It took me a while to find the ending for this. But when I found it, then it all fell into place quite quickly. Because we knew that this was going to be a show in development, we knew that there was going to be a lot of changes that would happen in the rehearsal room. So it wasn't like I finished it and was like, this is it, done, let's go. Like, it was very much like, okay, this is like a blueprint for us to start to play with. And I know that once we are in rehearsals and I'm hearing other people's inputs, we're hearing, like, obviously it was myself. I think obviously listeners might not know that it was myself performing in this piece.
Yes. I haven't even gotten into that yet, but we're going to get to that.
Yeah, so it was me and another actor, Ndaya Miles, brilliant performer. And so, yeah, we would just kind of figure things out with Alex each day. Like, so we really moved at breakneck speed because we didn't have long, which actually I think turned out to be like a blessing as well, because, you know, you can't get too hung up on stuff. You have to make decisions and just keep moving forward.
Moving forward,
yes.
Yeah. And you as you mentioned, you were the one, you know, I can't even say one of, to me, you were the principal sort of like actor character in this performance. What was that like in terms of, you were the writer, it was your story that you wrote, not your personal story, but it was the story that you wrote. You're also the actor. Like, you know, did you feel like you had to almost like switch roles between the sort of writer and the performer and the character that you were playing? Like, you know, working with a director, like, what was that process like? I'm always curious about that, especially for people who write and then perform their pieces.
This was the first piece that I'd written that I performed in. It's not something that I usually, I don't know, I quite like to have a bit of distance from things. Because I think the films that I've made, for example, I've written them and I've directed them. So I was like, that's enough. I don't want to perform in them as well. So yeah, this was the first play that I was like, okay, I'm going to perform in this. And Alex and I had lots of conversations about like how we're going to do it, so that when we go into rehearsals, I am just there as an actor. Yes. And I'm not like constantly thinking about, because I was producing it as well. So I was producing it and I was acting in it and I was writing it. So it was kind of like, how can we go into rehearsals and make sure I haven't got my producer hat on going, oh my gosh, risk assessment, oh my gosh, budget. And I'm just going in and, you know, being the performer. So we just basically did a lot of like prep so that, yeah, when I went in, it was okay, actually. It was all right. I found it manageable to be the performer. Yes. And I think because it would naturally come up where we'd be like, that's not sounding great. I need to rewrite that. Or it feels like something's missing here. We need to add something in. Or yeah, just cut that. Like, so it was good. It was nice. I think again, the time meant that we were just working really quickly and instinctively. I think, not kind of getting hung up on stuff, just being like, this doesn't feel right. So we need to tweak this. And again, very much was a team effort. It wasn't just me. And I felt like, Alex and Ndaya and Vicky, who was our stage manager, they all like were contributing in terms of like, maybe we could try this. Maybe we don't need that.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And I'm curious, how did you take Alex's notes? Like, I'm sure, you know, it gives you a piece that you're writing and performing and producing and everything. Like, did you feel it? Did you find it easy to take notes of like, cut this out or whatever? Like, how was that process for you? Just out of curiosity.
Generally, like, genuinely fine. I think for me, I remember at the beginning of the process feeling like, am I going to feel really like precious about this, or be like, exactly, oh no, I can't. And I don't know. Alex and I, we worked together quite a lot, where we kind of have collaborated a number of times. in a number of settings. I really trust her judgment. She's a brilliant creative person as a director and a dramaturg. So if she said, I don't think there was many things where it was like, I disagree with you, or she would explain it more. And then I was like, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. So yeah, it was okay. It was in this process, it was okay. I can't promise that in the future it would not. I won't take it more personally, because I was sure that in another project and another time I might be.
Yeah.
No.
Things might be different. Things might be different.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, then, in terms of, because as you said, you were the producer as well. So I'm curious then, like, were there any obstacles that you faced in like bringing this story to life and to perform it? Or how did you overcome those obstacles?
I think that producing a show that is a video game is extremely demanding and requires a lot of resource, which definitely knew going in, but still always needs more resource, always needs more time. And I think that's the biggest challenge we had. We obviously had Art Council funding to kind of fund this R&D, and the R&D was to kind of get to the end and have a full-length script and a show that was in development that we could perform. But I think, or could have always had more time, basically. I think time was our biggest enemy. And having just 10 days to rehearse it and put it on, it really put a lot of pressure on the team, which I would not repeat if I was going to do it again. And I think there's always those challenges when it comes to even just having to juggle so many different things and think about so many different things. Which again, if I was doing it again, I think I'd delegate, or maybe I wouldn't produce it. But then also, I feel like if we do it again, it's mostly written now. So I think it was having to kind of go from nothing to script and everything else.
Yeah, it'd be more like rehearsing a pre-existing script that you already had, which you're quite used to anyway as an actor. So I think that would be really good. I'm curious, what was your proudest moment in the process?
We did a show in Bristol, and Bristol is where I live, but Bristol was where we had run the community groups. And so I just felt like that was where the most people were there who kind of had really engaged with and supported this process. And so a lot of them came along to the show and saw it. We had a lot of Black women in the audience. And we also had a post-show Q&A afterwards. And that for me, that was just a dream, just that show and the reaction and the conversations afterwards and the post-show talk, and just, creating that space with that show, for me, that was such a proud moment. And the show also just looked really good in that space, in that theatre. So I think for me that was the proudest moment. This is what we did it for, and it's paid off. I love that. And you talked about the sort of doing in Bristol, having the community there with you, even doing that after show Q&A. I'm curious about, as an actor in general, but particularly in this piece, the sort of relationship with the audience. Because I always feel when you're performing something, you almost I don't want to say that the audience is a part of the show, because that's not quite what I mean. But there is no, if you're performing for an audience, the audience kind of makes up the dynamic of the show and how it's performed. So, how did that particular audience impact the show for you? There was, again, we're talking about joy here. I felt there was a lot of joy in the room. I felt like people were really willing to go on this journey. And I think because you say to video people about video games, some people kind of are put off by that, maybe because if it's not really their thing, I think people go, well, I'm not going to be interested in this because I don't like video games. But I think it was nice to see that everyone kind of really bought into the world that we were creating and really followed us on this journey. So I think, that was an amazing, that was just an amazing thing of having an audience really on your side and being really responsive to what you're offering and what you're giving. Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's great. I'm really, I'm pleased that it went that way for you, especially in your sort of home city. What's next? Well, I want to know what's next for the Fight Well project, but I also want to know what's next for Corinne. So let's start with the Fight Well project. What's next for the Fight Well project? So I put it down for a long time, actually, because it was just, as I probably sound, it was just really exhausting. I just think I really needed a break from it to get some perspective and some clarity, maybe as well, of what do we want to do with it next? And so we want to work more closely with universities and kind of organize bringing the show to universities. But also, I think at the moment, we're kind of in the investigative phase of like, what sort of wraparound stuff that we would offer with the show, kind of like what you were saying about making it more of an active thing, so that if people come and see the show, it's not just like we do the show and then we leave and that's it. Like, what's the post-show kind of continuing relationship, all the resources that we offer, all the conversations that we have? How do we, again, make it so it actually has a meaningful impact? So that's what we're exploring. But yeah, the plan is definitely want to take it out again. And we had a really brilliant team on it. So kind of hopefully want to work with them again. But yeah, it's very much at the exploratory like phase at the moment, and see what we can do. What's next for me is...
So Corinne.
Yeah, what am I doing now? I think I want to, again, funnily enough, the name of the podcast, but I think I want to reconnect with writing for Corinne, right?
Right.
Just for the joy of it, for the love of it, rather than writing because I have a deadline that I have to meet, and if I don't meet it, then everything is going to go,
Yeah,
which is definitely one way of writing, and it's definitely a way that I often find myself in. But I was like, let me see what ideas come like naturally and organically. I just finished a Channel 4 writing scheme that was like developing writers, TV writing and TV writing skills. And so I'm sort of like, maybe I want to explore a bit more in that medium, but very like in a very kind of relaxed way, very gentle way, I suppose, and kind of see like what that could offer. And what stories do I have to tell in that space as well?
Yeah, that sounds excellent. I can't wait to hear more about that. So that is great. This has been such a great conversation. I'm just like, I could talk to you all day. It's awesome.
Great, love it.
I love it. I really appreciate you coming on. Tell the audience where they can find you. Do you have any social media presence? Where can we find you?
Yes, I mean, I have Instagram. I'm at Corinne S. Walker on Instagram. And that's Corinne spelled Corinne S. Walker.
Nice.
So yeah.
Fantastic. All right, well, this is great. I'll drop that in the show notes. Karen, this was an awesome conversation. And I look forward to chatting again in the future. Thanks to the listeners for coming along on this journey with us. And hopefully we'll one day soon you'll be able to come see Corinne performing something and people can come out and sort of check it out.
Yes. Well, let's hope so.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
So before we go, I do have a lightning round, which is just like fun questions that I like to ask. So we're going to put 5 minutes on the clock and we're going to go. Well, ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is bringing you joy right now?
The weather.
Yes. I am wearing a dress. This never happens. I am wearing a dress in the UK. This is like a first in years. I'm like, the sun is out. It's warm. I love it.
Yeah.
I definitely
serious
see
joy.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is something that you want to try just for fun?
Paddleboarding.
Oh, wow. You come down to Plymouth, then we do a lot of paddleboarding down here. So
that's what people that came to my mind. Like, paddleboard. I see people do it all the time, but it has to be somewhere because I don't want to do it in like a really horrible like river or I want to do it in like a nice waters.
Yes, so have to arrange that for you. And what returns you to joy?
Music and dancing and good conversations. And I love to go for walks and while listening to audiobooks. Yeah, I'm getting into it because obviously the days are longer now. I'm really getting into just like going out and having a nice walk and just plugging in and hear it, like being taken to a totally new place and world. And yeah,
I love an audiobook for that as well. What is something that always makes you laugh?
What is something that always makes me laugh? Probably just my friends. We send each other like voice notes all the time, catching up on our lives, and there's always something in there that just really cracks me up.
Well, I love a good voice note. And last but not least, what is something that you dread but that always feels good afterwards?
That's a good point. Like I love swimming, but when it's like proper, really, really cold, you get in and you're like, oh God, no, please no. And then you get in and you're like, yeah, this feels so good. Yeah. Like cold water swimming.
Dipping that first toe into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. All right. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for indulging me with that lightning round. And yeah, this has been such a great conversation. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks to the audience that were listening. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon about all the things. So until next time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sophia. This has been great.
This has been great. Thanks, Corinne. And audience, I'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us today. You can find out more about our guests in the show notes below. And don't forget to hit subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, I send you big love.